The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be perfect. Instead, it felt like standing in a room full of whispers. I caught the looks first. Sideways glances, quick phone checks, people leaning into each other's ears. My fiancé's mother wouldn't meet my eyes. That was when I heard it. Fragments of conversation drifting across the restaurant like poison gas. Closing her business. Financial trouble. Bankruptcy. My stomach dropped. I turned toward the far corner of the room and saw him. My brother Adrian, smiling like he'd just won something. That expression. That smug, satisfied smile. I'd known Adrian my whole life, but I'd never seen him look quite like that. Before I could process what was happening, the photographer approached me, looking uncomfortable. "Brianna, I need to talk to you about something. I've got an unpaid invoice from a job I did. The invoice has Adrian's name on it." Everything went cold. My hands started shaking as I looked back at Adrian across the room. He was watching me, still smiling. That's when I knew. He'd spread rumors about me to destroy my wedding, and the photographer had caught him. I walked out of that dinner without another word. The calls started the next morning. "Ms. Cole, this is James from Lux Events. Is your business actually closing?" My venue coordinator called an hour later. "Brianna, we received concerning information about your financial situation. Can we discuss this?" Then my caterer. Then the florist. Then the band. Each call followed the same pattern. Someone had reached out to them, mentioned that I was facing serious money problems, questioned whether my wedding could actually go forward. Some had been told my business was bankrupt. I sat at my kitchen table, ice-cold coffee in front of me, trying to piece this together. How many vendors had he called? How much time had he spent on this? That's when I noticed something on my phone. A forwarded text from my caterer, showing the original message she'd received. It used a specific phrase, "deeply concerning financial situation," that I'd only ever heard Adrian say. Then I found it. In the email the florist forwarded, there was a small slip. The sender's email address had a faint typo. Adriank 0 Lu 2024. A burner account. Created recently. Used specifically for this. My brother had opened a fake email account to destroy me. I decided to play dumb. I needed more evidence before I confronted him. Adrian came over 3 days later, completely oblivious. We sat across from each other at our parents' house, and he was chatty, casual, like nothing was wrong. That's when he made his first mistake. "So, your wedding's still happening, right?" he asked, a hint of disappointment in his voice. "Even with, everything?" "Everything." Kept my tone light, curious. "What do you mean?" He tried to cover. "Just heard some things. About the venue maybe having issues." He knew. And he was fishing to see if his plan had worked. I forced a smile. "Everything's fine, Adrian." Later that evening I followed him outside while he took a phone call. I stood just beyond the doorframe, completely hidden, and listened. "Yeah, she's going to look so pathetic," he said into the phone. "By the time the wedding rolls around, everyone will know she's broke. Her fiancé might even call it off." My entire body went numb. This wasn't just about spreading rumors. He wanted the wedding to collapse. He wanted my fiancé to leave me. I went back inside, said goodnight, and got into my car. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. That night I started a document on my computer. Not a diary. File. I titled it Adrian Timeline, and began writing down everything I'd discovered. The call from the photographer. The vendor emails. The burner account. The phrase, "deeply concerning financial situation." The exact moment he'd looked satisfied at the rehearsal dinner. My job had trained me for this. I worked in auditing, which meant I lived and breathed documentation, timelines, evidence trails. If Adrian wanted to play this game, I'd show him what a professional could do. I created spreadsheets. Column 1, date. Column 2, vendor. Column 3, what he did. Column 4, evidence collected. Every morning I'd wake up and add to it. Screenshots of emails. The burner account details. Recordings of awkward phone calls with vendors asking about my finances. The folder grew. I told no one what I was doing. Not Jordan. Not my parents. Not my best friend. I was building something in silence, layer by layer. Then one morning my caterer called again. Brianna, someone contacted us yesterday and said your wedding is officially off. They said you're shutting everything down. My jaw locked. He'd escalated. I added it to the file. The call from my seamstress came on a Thursday morning. Brianna, honey, I'm confused. You called me yesterday and said you wanted to cancel the dress alterations because the wedding is off. My entire body went cold. I didn't call you, I said quietly. A woman called. She said she was you, that you'd decided not to go through with it. She sounded just like. The seamstress stopped herself. Wait, was that? Not you. No. I have no idea who that was. There was a long pause. Oh my God. Honey, I recorded that call. Let me listen back. Yes, I always record. I'll send you the audio file. She did. And when I listened to it, my heart sank further. It wasn't Adrian's voice. It was someone else, a woman. The recording quality was poor, but the person was definitely pretending to be me, using my name, claiming to be canceling my wedding. Adrian had brought someone else into this. But then I got the email from my seamstress with the forwarded message. The original voicemail with a phone number. I ran the number through a reverse lookup, and it traced back to a prepaid burner phone. I dug deeper, checking my credit card statements. 2 weeks ago, Adrian had transferred $200 to the phone number that matched the voicemail. He'd paid someone to impersonate me and cancel my dress. I added it all to the file. I made a decision. No confrontation. Not yet. If Adrian thought he was winning, he'd keep moving, keep making mistakes, keep leaving evidence. I'd let him dig himself deeper. So I stayed calm. I went to work. I smiled at family events. I didn't mention anything about the rumors or vendor calls. I acted like everything was fine. Adrian started getting bolder. He texted the photographer again, asking him to delete the invoice. He called my caterer a third time, this time claiming to be my accountant and asking them to release my deposit. He even contacted the band, telling them I'd decided on a smaller ceremony. Each action was documented, each email screenshot, each call logged with timestamps. But here's what I didn't expect. Adrian wasn't working alone, and he wasn't just targeting my vendors. My fiancé Jordan came home one evening looking upset. His father had called him that afternoon with concerns about our engagement. He said someone reached out to him privately, Jordan said carefully. Someone claiming to be close to the family. They told him that you were in serious financial trouble and that you were using the wedding to cover something up. My heart stopped. Adrian had gone after Jordan's family. I needed to know exactly what Adrian had told Jordan's father. Jordan agreed to ask his father for details, and what came back was chilling. Adrian had apparently scheduled a private meeting with Jordan's father weeks ago. During that meeting, he'd claimed he was looking out for the family's reputation by warning them about my serious financial instability. He'd told them my business was struggling, that I'd misrepresented my financial situation to Jordan, that the wedding was a Hail Mary attempt to distract from my failing company. The worst part, Jordan's father had believed some of it at first. He'd started making subtle comments about finances, questioning whether Jordan and I were moving too fast. My future in-laws were pulling away from me because of my own brother's lies. I added this to my file too, but now my approach had to change. If Adrian was poisoning Jordan's family against me, I couldn't wait much longer. Still I kept my distance. No confrontation. Not yet. My parents finally broke. I went to see them, not to tell them about Adrian's campaign against me, but to understand why he was doing it. When I asked, my mother exchanged a look with my father and sighed. Adrian's in debt, she said quietly. Serious debt. He borrowed money for a business that failed, and now he owes people a lot of money. My father continued. He's been bitter about your wedding. About the fact that Jordan's family is helping with costs. About the fact that that you're thriving, my mother added. He tried to get us to loan him money to help with family expenses. When we said no, he got angry. He said if you could have a big wedding, why couldn't he have his business loan paid off? Adrian was drowning. And instead of dealing with it, he'd decided to drag me down with him. I also learned something else that same day. Adrian had applied for a loan recently, and he'd used our parents' names as co-signers without their permission. He'd forged their signatures. This wasn't just about spreading rumors anymore. This was fraud. This was identity theft. I felt something shift inside me. The anger I'd been suppressing hardened into something cold and calculated. A week later, my family had a brunch at a restaurant. Adrian showed up in an expensive new watch, designer clothes he definitely couldn't afford. He was performing. I watched him from across the table as he bragged about being the responsible one in the family. He talked about how he was looking out for everyone's best interests, and how some people were making poor financial decisions. He was talking about me. My mother kept shooting me uncomfortable looks. My father just stared at his plate. But Adrian was completely oblivious that I knew anything. He thought I was still panicking about the rumors he'd spread. He was having fun. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from the photographer. Hey Brianna, I'm still waiting on that invoice from your brother. This is now 3 months overdue. I need to collect or I'm filing a claim. I excused myself to the bathroom and replied, let me handle this. Don't file yet, but send me everything you have on him. The photographer responded immediately with a folder containing all the documentation I needed. That evening, I called the photographer directly. Tell me everything, I said. How did Adrian even hire you? The photographer explained that Adrian had contacted him privately, asking him to do secret pre-wedding photos of me and Jordan. He wanted to surprise everyone, Adrian had said. The photographer had agreed and completed the work. Adrian never paid. Not once. Not a deposit. Not a final payment. Nothing. When the photographer tried to collect, Adrian had blocked his number and ghosted. I've been trying to track him down for months, the photographer said. I don't like being this aggressive, but I can't just write off that much money. You won't have to, I said. In fact, I'm going to need you to do something for me. I invited Adrian to lunch the next day, just the two of us. I needed him on record. We met at a quiet cafe, and I made sure my phone was in my pocket, voice recording app running. As soon as we sat down, I asked him about the rumors. Adrian, people have been saying weird things about my business. Do you know anything about that? He hesitated for just a second. Then he smiled. Why would I know anything? I don't know. Just asking. He relaxed a little, then started talking. Bragging, actually. About how he'd been protecting the family reputation by warning vendors. About how he'd been realistic about my financial situation. About how he'd tried to help Jordan's father understand what was really going on. I let him keep talking, kept asking questions that fed his ego. Then I asked the key question. Adrian, did you contact my venue? He froze. For just a moment his mask slipped. Then he laughed. Why would I do that? I had him on recording, denying something I could prove he did. Over the next few days, I reached out to every single vendor Adrian had contacted. Each one had a story. Each one had been told almost the same thing. The phrases matched. The insinuations were identical. They all described someone claiming to be concerned about my financial well-being, while simultaneously questioning whether I could actually pay for the wedding. It was coordinated, deliberate, systematic. I compiled all their statements into a document. And then I asked each vendor if they still had the original communications. One by one they sent them to me. The venue forwarded emails. The caterer sent voicemail recordings. The florist provided chat transcripts. The band sent text messages. Every single vendor had documentation. And then the florist sent something that made my breath catch. Brianna, I just realized. The original voicemail from your cancellation call? I saved it. Here's the audio file. I listened to the recording. It was the same woman's voice from the seamstress call. And then the florist added, P.S. The person who recommended she call me was Adrian Cole. His actual email, his actual name. He basically confessed in an email that he'd hired someone to impersonate you. The evidence wasn't just building. It was conclusive. I had a folder now that was absolutely devastating. Documents, recordings, emails, screenshots, vendor statements, proof of the forged loan, evidence of the hired impersonator. The recording of Adrian denying things I could prove he'd done. I could destroy him with this. Completely. Utterly. Permanently. But I didn't act yet. I wanted to see what he'd do next. I wanted to give him the rope to hang himself with. And he did. 4 days before my wedding, Adrian sent a mass message to the family group chat. He'd written something designed to look helpful but was actually devastating. Just wanted to give everyone a heads up. Brianna's been dealing with some financial stress, and while she says the wedding is still on, I've heard from several vendors that there might be issues. Just want to make sure we're all aware in case something changes. Trying to be supportive. It was poisonous. It was designed to look like concern while spreading maximum damage. I screenshotted immediately. Then I forwarded the screenshot to the photographer with a simple message. Are you ready? He replied. Whenever you need me. Jordan found the group chat message before I could show it to him. He called Adrian immediately. I listened from the other room as his voice got quieter, colder, more controlled, which meant he was genuinely angry. You what? You've been spreading rumors about my fiancé. To my father. To her vendors. I couldn't hear Adrian's response, but I could imagine it. Denials. Claims he was just being helpful. Jordan wasn't buying it. I'm done protecting you. I'm done covering for you. This ends. Now. After he hung up, Jordan told me everything. He'd already suspected something was off. But he hadn't wanted to worry me before the wedding. I'm so sorry, he said. I should have told you. It's okay, I said. But there's something you need to know. I showed him the file. All of it. The documentation, the timeline, the recordings, the vendor statements. As he read through it, his face got darker and darker. This is insane, he said. He hired someone to impersonate you. And he forged our parents' names on a loan application, I added quietly. Jordan grabbed his phone and texted Adrian. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Before the wedding. With Brianna. Adrian's response came back immediately. Of course. Happy to explain everything. He was going to try to lie his way out of this. He had no idea what was coming. The final walkthrough of the venue was scheduled for the day before the wedding. I'd coordinated with the photographer beforehand. I told him to show up during the family meeting with Adrian. To bring his invoice. To be direct about it. When Adrian arrived, he had no idea what was waiting for him. Jordan and I were there. My parents were there. Some of the wedding staff was there. And then, as we were talking, the photographer walked through the door, invoice in hand. Adrian Cole? He asked, looking right at my brother. Adrian's face went pale. Yeah. I need to discuss the outstanding invoice from the pre-wedding photo shoot you hired me for. It's now 3 months overdue, and I need payment immediately or I'm filing a small claims case. The photographer held up the invoice. $3,500. Adrian stammered. I don't know what you're talking about. You signed a contract, the photographer said, pulling out the document. Here's your signature. Here's the work I completed. You've paid none of it. My mother stood up. Adrian. What is this? It's nothing, Adrian said. He's confused. I never hired him. You're on my contract, the photographer said flatly. With your signature. You approved the photos. You owe me $3,500. And that's when everything fell apart. Because of course, Adrian had told people he'd hired the photographer. He'd been bragging about it to various family members. "I hired a photographer for Brianna's wedding," he'd said, trying to position himself as generous as helpful. Now, as the photographer was publicly demanding payment, people began asking questions. "Wait, Adrian, you hired him?" my aunt asked. "But then, why isn't he paid?" "Yeah, Adrian," another relative chimed in. "Are you saying you paid for something for Brianna's wedding but never actually paid the photographer?" Adrian's face was turning red. His carefully constructed image, the responsible son, the caring brother, was cracking in real time. He stood up abruptly. "I can't do this. Not now. Not before the wedding." Then he grabbed his phone and walked away from us, muttering under his breath. He made a phone call. I could hear pieces of it from across the room. "Yeah, I know. No, I can't get the money. I'm telling you, I don't have it." He was panicking. I followed him outside. Adrian was in the parking lot, still on the phone, his voice getting more desperate with each word. "Listen, I need you to hold off on that. Just for a few days. I know what I promised. I know. Look, something happened and I need more time." The person on the other end wasn't listening. I could hear raised voices, words like lawsuit and collection and fraud. Adrian's voice cracked. "Please, if you pull the loan now, I lose everything. I know you're angry. Please, I'm begging you." He hung up and leaned against his car, his entire body shaking. That's when he saw me. "How much did you hear?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Enough," I said calmly. And then I turned around and walked back inside. When I went back into the venue, everyone was waiting. Jordan was standing by the window, arms crossed. My parents looked shaken. The photographer was still there. The wedding coordinator looked confused. Adrian came back inside and I stood up. "Adrian, we need to talk about what you've done," I said, my voice steady and clear. "Brianna, whatever you think." "I'm not done," I interrupted. "For the past 3 months, you've spread rumors about me to my vendors, my venue, and our relatives. You created a fake email account to contact them. You hired someone to impersonate me. You forged mom and dad's signatures on a loan application. And you've been telling everyone that I'm bankrupt." Adrian's face went gray. "I have documentation for all of it," I continued, holding up my folder. "Emails, recordings, vendor statements, your own admission on tape. Everything." He tried to interrupt, but I kept going. "The only reason you did this was because you're desperate. You borrowed money for a failed business, and instead of dealing with it, you decided to drag me down because I was doing well." Adrian's jaw clenched. "You always had everything." "No," I said quietly. "I earned everything. The difference between us is that I didn't destroy other people to do it." He exploded. "You're ruining my life. You're going to ruin me with this." "No," I said. "You're doing that yourself." Then I slid the folder across the table toward him. He flipped through the pages, his breathing getting faster, shallower. Screenshots, emails, recordings, vendor statements, his own signature on contracts, proof of the impersonator, the recording of him denying things I could prove, page after page, evidence after evidence. His hands started shaking. "Where did you get all this?" "From the vendors you contacted. From the photographer. From your own emails. From you, Adrian." My father stood up. "Adrian, is this true?" Adrian didn't answer. "I'm calling a lawyer," I said quietly. "The photographer is filing a small claims case for payment. And I'm also filing a report about the forged loan application. What you did is fraud." Adrian's breathing became ragged. "Brianna, please. You told me I'd look pathetic," I said, meeting his eyes. "You tried to sabotage my wedding. You went after Jordan's family." I stood up. "You don't get to ask for mercy now." Adrian fell apart. He ran to our parents, begging them for money to pay the photographer, to handle the legal issues, to fix this before it gets worse. His voice was desperate, pleading. "I made a mistake," he sobbed. I panicked. I need help. Please. My mother looked at my father. Neither of them moved. No, my father said finally. We're not helping you. Not this time. But Dad, you forged our names, Adrian. You committed fraud. You destroyed your sister's reputation. And then you lied about it, my mother said, her voice cold. You need to face what you've done. Adrian turned to me, desperation in his eyes. Brianna, please. You're my sister. You know me. This is exactly who you are, I said. And I'm done protecting you. Jordan walked over and put his arm around me. We're done. All of us. We called a family meeting for the next day, before the wedding rehearsal. Everyone was there. My parents, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, Jordan and his parents. The photographer was there too. I presented the timeline. Not angry. Not loud. Just facts. Documentation. Evidence. I walked them through every lie Adrian had told. Every vendor he'd contacted. Every false story he'd spread. As I spoke, the photographer played recordings of Adrian's voice on the phone. There was no denying it. Adrian tried to deny it anyway. It wasn't like that. I was just worried about her. I was trying to protect. Every vendor confirms your voice, the photographer interrupted. I have the recordings. There's no ambiguity here. My grandfather leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. My mother looked at Adrian like she'd never seen him before. Who are you? She whispered. Adrian tried everything. First he blamed stress. I wasn't thinking clearly. I had a breakdown. No one believed him. Then he tried blame shifting. Everyone expects so much from me. I was drowning and nobody cared. My father cut him off. You didn't lash out at us. You systematically sabotaged your sister. Finally, Adrian tried the apology route. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to actually sabotage everything. You don't get to apologize for something you deliberately planned and executed, my grandmother said quietly. The room was silent. You're going to repay every debt you've incurred, my father said flatly. The photographer, the impersonator, any legal fees. You're doing this alone. Adrian put his head in his hands. 2 weeks after my wedding, the photographer filed his small claims case. Adrian lost immediately. The judge looked at the contract and evidence and ruled against him in minutes. He had to pay $3,500 plus court costs. He didn't have it. The judgment went on his record. It affected his credit rating. His attempt to get a new loan was immediately denied. But that wasn't even the worst part. The forged loan application my parents reported triggered an investigation. Adrian was accused of identity theft and fraud. He had to hire a lawyer. The legal fees were astronomical. He was forced to take out what little credit he had left just to defend himself against charges that were absolutely, provably true. He was drowning deeper. And he had no one to pull him out. My wedding day was perfect. Not because everything was flawless, there were small hiccups. But because it was mine. Completely, authentically, joyfully mine. I walked down the aisle and felt nothing but peace. My guests embraced me. They told me they knew something had been off. They told me they were proud of me for standing up for myself. Jordan's parents told me they were sorry for ever doubting me. They'd seen the evidence. As I said my vows, I looked out at the people I loved. Adrian wasn't there. He'd been told not to come. And I realized something. I didn't feel angry anymore. Felt free. That evening, as Jordan and I danced, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Adrian. Brianna, I'm sorry. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I'm sorry. Can we please talk? I need help. I have no one. I showed Jordan the text. He looked at me. What do you want to do? I thought about everything Adrian had done. The lies. The sabotage. The deliberate attempt to destroy me. Then I blocked the number. I want to be happy, I said. And right now that means letting him go. A year later I was still married to Jordan, still thriving in my career, still building the life I'd always wanted. Adrian had lost everything. His credit was destroyed. His legal fees had bankrupted him. He'd moved back in with our parents. I don't know if he ever faced what he'd done. I didn't follow his life anymore. What I did know was this. I had documented his cruelty. I had faced him calmly. I had not let him win. And when he'd tried to drag me down, I'd stood firm. Every night, I'd stand on the balcony of my home with Jordan beside me, looking out at the city lights, and I'd think about what I'd learned. You cannot protect people from their own choices. You cannot save someone who doesn't want to be saved. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for someone is to let them face the consequences of what they've done. Adrian had destroyed himself the moment he decided to destroy me. And I was finally completely free.